Thank you for joining us for the Sunshine Coast Regional District 2019-2023 Financial Plan Overview. We've just concluded our Round 1 budget deliberations, and we're going to cover where we are with the budget as it stands currently. So what we're going to cover today is a little bit of introduction of the Sunshine Coast Regional District and our financial planning process, some of the key items impacting the 2019 budget, some of the budget figures and projects that are being presented, as well as what we have to cover for Round 2. We're also going to take this opportunity to go over the Sunshine Coast Regional Hospital District budget. Then we'll take some questions and provide some information at the end of the presentation. So the Sunshine Coast Regional District serves a population of almost 30,000 people. We have 5 rural areas and 3 member municipalities, and we're within the traditional territories of the Sechelt and Squamish First Nations. The Regional District has 3 basic roles: to advance regional interest, provide governance for the rural areas, and to provide services either regionally or locally. The SCRD provides over 45 distinct services with over 100 different functional area budgets. It's also important to note what we don't do, such as roads and policing. So for regional district participants, they only pay for the services that they receive, and it can be delivered in many different combinations. As a result, regional districts do not have one standard mill rate as a municipality does. The rates are set for each individual service. Therefore, it depends where you live. Your taxes are also calculated based on your property assessment and classification, such as a residential or business class. The regional district's financial planning process is legislative required per the Local Government Act. It must complete a 5-year financial plan and institute a public participation process to explain the plan. The financial plan in the form of a bylaw must be adopted by March 31st of each year. The SCRD's budget process typically begins with the board's strategic plan. However, for 2019, the board is working to develop their new strategic plan. Therefore, this will be the focus of the next budgeting process. Business and work plans also assist with the budgeting process. The 2019 financial planning process began in August of 2018. Pre-budget meetings were held on November 30th and December 1st. The first round of budgets just concluded, as we mentioned earlier, on February 4th and 5th. The second round is set for March the 4th, with adoption of the financial plan bylaw scheduled for March the 28th. There are public presentations like this one today. The budget meetings are open. There are special committee meetings presenting information. There's sessions for community partners and stakeholders, a film presentation on Coast Cable, and sessions at our member municipalities. Our variance reports occur quarterly, and work plans are updated every second month. For the 2020 financial plan, we're going to be beginning that process in the summer of 2019. So as we said, the pre-budget meetings were held on November 30th and December 1st, and the purpose of those meetings is to review project carry-forwards from the prior year, as well as the proposed initiatives being presented. It's to receive information from our community partners and stakeholders as well. These meetings are not to make any decisions, but it's for the board to understand what's coming forward for consideration. Staff also provides several informative reports in the various committees. So for December and January committees, we presented the SCRD Fire and Emergency Services Reviews, Groundwater Investigation Report, the Wastewater Asset Management and Rate Review. We reviewed the Recreation Capital Models, and various contracts and award reports also impacting budget were presented. Budget proposal criteria is set forth on a hierarchy. Proposals which are mandatory, which are safety, imminent asset failure, or regulatory compliance, are automatically inputted into the budget. Those for business continuity or to maintain core operations are presented for consideration, as those have decisions related to service levels. Items identified in the strategic plan or integrated 5-year plan are historical context, and of course we're just developing the new strategic plan, so no proposals were presented in those factors. Low cost, high value proposals are significant in cost or resources, however provide a high value such as improving operational efficiencies. Proposals in the other categories are items which have not been previously identified or are not critical to the delivery of the service. So prior to the Round 1 budget deliberations, there are several items that are impacting the 2019 budget. We're going to be touching on the changes in assessments further in the presentation. And the items which are already impacting taxation are things like wages and benefits related to collective agreements or contracts. The changes to the new employer health tax, which is the transition from the MSP from the provincial government, which resulted in an increase of over $144,000 in new taxation required this year. We also have an increase in the landfill post-closure liability funding, which is currently underfunded by approximately $5 million. The Sechelt landfill has a current estimated lifespan of 7 to 8 years, and the incremental funding increase is $125,000 of new taxation for 2019. As well, we've had several contract increases for operational services, including those for BC Transit. These resulted in an increase of almost $750,000 of new taxation, or 3.95% over 2018. 2018 carry-forward projects don't have any financial implications as though have been previously funded by prior years. So 2019 BC assessment impacts. So overall, assessments in the regional district have gone up 12.3% over 2018. Converted assessed values have also increased by 12.3%. Converted values are the next taxable value of land and improvements multiplied by the percentage factor to generate the tax rates. Tax rates for regional districts in BC are prescribed by the province, while a municipality has control over this process. For example, the residential class pays 1 times a tax rate, whereas a business class pays 2.45 times the rate, or utilities, which pay 3.5%. Provided here are the overall assessed values for the Sunshine Coast, where for 2019, there is over $13.5 billion worth of assessment, where it was approximately $12 billion in 2018. Non-market changes are due to growth, which for 2019, there is a 1.5% growth rate for the coast. Market refers to the changes related to market shift. An example is that a house in your street will sell on average 10.79% more than it did in 2018. Assessment impact changes the apportionment amongst the various areas. Essentially, the portion of tax pie an area will pay is impacted by the changes in assessment relative to the other service participants. For example, in areas such as Area B, Half-Moon Bay, Area D, Roberts Creek, or the town of Gibsons, converted values went up almost 15% and 16% respectively. This is due to increase in utilities, business, or managed forests, which then reduces the residential class for those areas. This just provides an illustration of the changes in assessment for each area as it relates to assessment. The SCRD Tax Base is mostly residential with over 82%. Therefore, we don't have a lot of industry or business, so therefore a lot of the taxes are paid by residents. Now we'll discuss some of the preliminary budget figures for 2019. The SCRD has an estimated $54 million budget. The operating budget is projected at over $39 million, which is $1.25 million over 2018. These reflect the previously mentioned budget impacts for 2019 as well. The capital budget for 2019 is estimated at almost $15 million. However, it's important to understand that this includes past carry-forward projects approved from prior years. Preliminary taxation heading into round 2 is estimated at 5.74% over 2018, which translates to almost $1.1 million worth of taxation after round 1. Various parcel taxes and user fee rates have also been reviewed and come for approval. And there's been several changes with some of the regional, north, south, as well as the wastewater rates. So where does your money go? For Area A, there are several functions that they participate in. The majority of the services that they pay into are for recreation and culture and planning and development services. They also have several parcel taxes and user fees for a lot of their wastewater plants in the area, as well as their various water systems. For Area B, Half-Moon Bay, as well, majority of their taxes go to recreation and culture, which includes the community recreation facilities, community parks, and the library services. For Area D, Roberts Creek, there's a little bit of change here where we see recreation and culture again being the highest tax apportion, But also a large portion of their taxes go to protective services for things like the Roberts Creek Volunteer Fire Department, or transportation services, which includes the transit service. For Area E, Elphinstone, again, lots of funding going towards recreation and culture, transportation. For West Howe Sound, we understand that they have a unique situation of having islands as well as industry in their area. Therefore, they do pay a lot into recreation and culture, transportation services. However, a lot of the cost sharing goes into the industrial properties. For the District of Sechelt, they participate in approximately 20 services of the regional district's 45, the majority being to recreation and culture again, environmental services, which includes solid waste management, transportation, which includes transit. For the Sechelt Indian Government District, or the Sechelt Nation, again, they participate mostly into recreation and culture, as well as our transportation and environmental services. Again, they receive approximately 20 services from the regional district. The town of Gibsons reflects about the same as the other two member municipalities, and again, they participate in about 20 services of the regional district as well. The majority being community recreation facilities as well. So for 2019, over 52 new projects came forward for consideration, reflecting about a $2.4 million increase of funding. We also had our community partners and stakeholders come forward with $58,000 of new funding requests over 2018, with over $28,000 being approved during the round one budget. The SCRD provides over $1.35 million to community partners and stakeholders. Those include our libraries, our museums, our youth programs, our community schools. And again, a lot of our member municipalities participate in these services. For corporate and administrative services, projects focused on supporting the new board with things like updating our website and video streaming of public meetings. We also looked at our asset management planning and focusing on renegotiating our collective bargaining agreement. The Sunshine Coast Emergency Planning has just undergone a review, and it's been identified that several statutory and regulatory bylaws need to be updated, as well as supporting our volunteers and adding new resources there. So for the SCRD fire departments, they will be getting replacements to their portable radios. Gibsons and Area Volunteer Fire Department are also going to be replacing some aging equipment. For planning and community development in our ports area, there has been a commitment for ongoing capital maintenance funding. However, in building inspection, we saw a reduction in taxation, which is quite unusual. This is because we've seen continuous growth in this service, and the user fees are being able to sustain the service. In recreation and parks, we're seeing improvements to arena regulatory due to the changes due to the Fernie incidents in how we manage our ammonia plants. In parks, we're seeing just vehicle replacements and regular maintenance, and the A-Pender Harbour pool is also seeing dollars towards facility maintenance. In our infrastructure services, our water utilities have several projects on the go, as well as new projects being proposed. The groundwater investigation, phase 3, was just approved by the board, and several improvements to the water treatment plant. We're also going to be undergoing our water sourcing policy and doing some general vehicle replacements. For our North and South Pender Harbour service, we also see several maintenance projects underway, as well as some main replacements in some of the areas. As mentioned earlier, there's been a large focus on our wastewater plants, and there are several projects underway, but we have also identified the need for improved resourcing and staffing in those facilities. So lastly, for our community partners and stakeholders who have a special day with the committee to present their budget proposals, we saw continued support for our community schools and youth programs, and we saw some small increases for our museums and library services. So that brings us to round 2 budget, which is scheduled for March 4th and 5th. What will be covered during that meeting is the final carry forwards from prior years. We'll be presenting the year-end surplus deficits from 2018, And the functions that still require decisions relate to general government, protective and emergency services, our fleet, and our regional water. For our community partners and stakeholders, we still need to address the Sechelt Public Library funding, our final rural grant and aid funding, as well as our economic development functions. This will all be in preparation for the finalization of the budget for March 28th. So the Sunshine Coast Regional Hospital District's provisional budget was adopted in October of 2018. The purpose of the Regional Hospital District is to provide capital funding to our hospital facilities in our community, which include the Sechelt Hospital as well as Totem Lodge. The final budget is scheduled to be approved on March the 28th. This budget has a continued commitment to fund $240,000 towards minor capital equipment. We also have several ongoing projects in that particular budget. And taxation is essentially the same over 2018 at $1.41 million. So that concludes our budget presentation for 2019. And all this information can be found on our website. And we also wanted to note that for this year, we have provided a budget document which details very area-specific rates and taxation information. Thank you.